credit in various international and national journals. Over to you, ma'am. We welcome you to the platform and request you to please start with your presentation.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for your kind introduction. Before I start, I would like to thank the organizing team, Dr. Narendra Padia, Dr. Gaurav Par, then Dr. Pragati, and the entire organizing team for conducting this or coordinating the programs in a meticulous way. Thank you for inviting me. Let me share my screen, okay?
Very good. It is not wasted in our pilot.
Is it clear now? Visible now?
Yes.
Okay. Shall I start?
Yes, ma'am. Please start.
Yes, please start.
Okay. So about my topic, the basic principles of management of post-ablative mandibular lesions. Right now we heard Jacob sir explain in detail about the various maxillary lesions and how the management. But the difference between the maxillary and the mandibular lesions is here in many cases without reconstruction, it may not be possible to replace the teeth or the prosthetic rehabilitation will be very difficult. So in this presentation, I'll be focusing on how as a prosthodontist, we can dedicatedly help the patients or how we can complement the surgeons to bring back the patients to normal or a near normal life. So mainly I have included the etiology and prevalence of various mandibular deletions, then the classification of mandibular defects, some physical training aids for correcting the deviation, then various prosthetic options in reconstructed mandible and few cases of some composite defects, how we can prostheses that enhance the quality of life of patient. See, sometimes even with a small acrylic prosthesis or a silicone prosthesis, that helps to regain the functional deficit and improve the quality of life. Anyway, I'll show you a few cases based on that. So as you know, the etiology, already Jacob sir has explained this. It may be due to any benign or malignant tumors, some congenital anomalies will be there, then trauma, infection, osteoradionecrosis that we can relate with the bisphosphonate therapy. All these are the etiology of mandibular lesions. Then, oral cancer is the 8th most common cancer worldwide. In India, the age standardized incidence rate of oral cancer is 12.6 per 1 lakh population. That it constitutes 12% of all cancers in men and 8% of all cancers among women in India. And in oral cavity, the tongue is the most common location. Then coming to the classification, in this article by Brian, he has clearly explained how the radiologic and pathologic characteristics of benign and malignant lesion specifically affecting the mandible. So the basic classification is this classified as cystic, solid, and metabolic tumors are there. In cystic, you know, the various odontogenic keratocyst. Then the common one is the radicular cyst or the periapical cyst. Then we have the dentigerous cyst. These are the most common mandibular lesions. Then the solid mandibular lesions, it may be either benign or malignant tumors are included. Then the benign lesions again classified as odontogenic and non-odontogenic. The odontogenic types may be odontomas or some ameloblastoma, whereas non-odontogenic type again classified as osseous and non-osseous types are there. Osseous, you know, juvenile ossifying fibroma. That is most common in, or it is more common in children. And ossifying, adult ossifying fibroma is there. Then the non-osseous lesions, the hemangiomas, neurofibroma, some arteriovenous malformations may be there. Then the malignant counterpart of all these will be there. So these are the most common benign and malignant lesions affecting the mandible. Then coming to the epidemiology of oral cancer, most head and neck cancers, more than 90% are squamous cell carcinoma originating from the epithelium. If we consider all carcinomas, 96%, that is, carcinomas account for the epithelial origin accounts for 96%, whereas sarcomas, that is the mesenchymal origin, only about 4%. That means carcinomas are more common at sarcomas. It's most common cancer, squamous cell carcinoma. It's more common in males, and it's the third most common cancer in females. Coming to the various types of benign lesions, already I have shown you. Odontomas are more common, the benign solid tumor, odontogenic tumor, and the cyst, the radicular or the periapical cyst is the most common type. So for postgraduates, see exam point of view, all these are some relevant points related to the epidemiology of oral cancer. Then coming to the treatment modalities of the various lesions of mandible, you know, either surgery, chemo or radiation can be done. But again, that depends on the location of the tumor, the spread of the tumor, and basically the TNM staging. So the gold standard of treatment is a surgical resection of the tumor. That is, other than radiation or chemo, the resection of the tumor is considered as the gold standard with safety margin. Post-surgical defects generate a significant morbidity that needs reconstruction. If reconstruction is not indicated, it's very difficult to replace the teeth, but we can correct the deviation, or if some trismus is there, that can be corrected. Some small function appliances we can give for those which are not reconstructed. I'll show you a few cases. Then coming to the classification, as prosthodontist, I think we are familiar with this Cantor and Curtis classification given in McCracken. No? It's not A, B, C, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 are there. 1 means it's a radical alveolectomy, whereas the marginal continuity is preserved. Whereas 2 is, it's a lateral defect involving the condyle and it's distal to the canine. Whereas 3, that is crossing the midline. Whereas 4 and 5, 4 is a lateral defect and 5 is a central defect. There the reconstruction will be done. So these are the 5 defects. Along with this, they have included one more, that is class 6 means only mandibulectomy without reconstruction. That is one system of classification, Cantor and Curtis classification. The next is the Baird-Boyd's classification. That is mainly based on the reconstruction. That means, see, if the condyle is disarticulated or if the condyle is removed, it's a H means hemimandibulectomy defect with disarticulation of the condyle. L means lateral defect and the condyle is preserved. C means central defect. And the combinations are the HCLC likewise. Then, so Cantor and Curtis, Boyd's classification, and one more system of classification you should know, that is the recently introduced Brown's classification. In maxilla also we have the Brown's classification after resection. So here also they have included them based on resection. See, the difference between the Boyd's and the Brown's classification is that is mainly based on the reconstruction, whether they are replacing the TMJ or up to the condyle, they like that. Whereas here, the position, that means class 1 defect is distal to the canine and also up to the angle of the mandible. Whereas 1C, C means condyle also involved. Then class 2 means it crosses the canine and also the angle of the mandible. Then 2C means C is condyle also involved, whereas 3 is a central defect. Then class 4 means both sides canine and reach up to the angle of the mandible. Then class 4C again condyle is involved. So 3 systems of classification. The first one, Cantor and Curtis. See, based on that we can plan our partial denture design. But again, in hemimandibulectomy alone or a partial mandibulectomy case, it's very difficult to restore or replace teeth without reconstruction. It's not like obturator giving in a maxilla. So even if, see, Dr. Bhuma's text has given clearly explained how we can design the partial denture in hemimandibulectomy case, but only 1 or 2 teeth can be replaced based on that. Then we won't get enough prosthetic space. Okay. Then the various modalities of surgical resection, either enucleation, that is with or without curettage, then the various types of resection, marginal resection, then the segmental, the entire segment is resected, then composite resection that may involve skin, the bone, and some other organs may be involved. Then Postgraduates, don't confuse with this term mandibulotomy and mandibulectomy. Mandibulotomy is nothing but to gain access for the surgery. That means if some surgery is planned on the base of the tongue or the tonsil areas, the mandibulotomy has to be done to gain the access to the surgery. Then after surgery, this can be screwed in correct position. That's the difference between mandibulotomy and mandibulectomy. Then the surgical closure and initial reconstruction can be done either primary closure. That means without any soft tissue or the bony reconstruction, the reflected flap is closed in primary closure. But here, the prosthetic space is minimal. We won't get adequate space for the teeth replacement. The second is the myocutaneous flap. That means both muscle and the skin may be involved. And the third is the free vascularized flap. That means that includes the fibula, scapula, different types. So free vascularized reconstruction, again, that is the gold standard for replacing teeth. See, if we can do the primary closure like this, almost all functions will be compromised. Sometimes glossectomy will be done along with the mandibulectomy or the marginal mandibulectomy. So in these cases, it's very difficult to replace the teeth. Even the function will also be affected. So this is a palatal augmentation prosthesis. So I have included this prosthesis along with this because usually along with the margin, as I said before, along with the mandibulectomy, marginal or sectional, sometimes glossectomy may be done. So in those cases, the speech and the swallowing will be affected because the tongue will not be properly contacting the palatal surface. In those cases, lowering the palate allows the tongue to interact with the palatal contours and the maxillary dentition more precisely. So that helps to improve the speech and the swallowing, especially certain consonants like. See, I'll show you one case. See, here the glossectomy done and we have to do a palatal augmentation prosthesis. For that, what you have to do is first you have to take the impression. That means with a putty material, we can mold it in correct position. After that, you have to ask the patient to do all the movements. Along with that, ask the patient to speak some consonants like, say, the glossopalatal sounds. If the tongue is touching the hard palate or the rugae region, the consonants like S, T, N, L, like that. Whereas if the tongue is touching the soft palate, like G, NG. So ask the patient to speak all these consonants and we will get some indentations. So up to a certain extent, we can correct the speech and the swallowing with this because the remnants of the tongue will touch the palatal augmentation prosthesis. So that helps the patient to swallow in a better way. Even with complete denture also, if you are getting good retention with the denture, then we can augment the polished surface and we'll be able to achieve some sort of speech clarity with this one. So I'll show you one glossectomy case. This glossectomy left lateral border of the tongue done for moderately differentiated squamous cell carcinoma. See, for this patient, only glossectomy done, not marginal or segmental mandibulectomy. But again, the main problem is usually to get the stability of lower denture, the anterior portion of the tongue should passively touch the lingual surface of the anterior teeth. Even the lateral border of the tongue, that should touch the posterior teeth. So then only you will get the denture stability. First, we have tried without implants because a single tooth was remaining. But we were not getting any retention with that, or the stability of the denture was not adequate. Then we have placed 3 implants with locator abutments we have given. So we got good occlusion with this one. So what I'm telling is, in glossectomy case, at least 1 or 2 implants are needed to get proper retention and stability of the denture. That's about the glossectomy. Next, about the mandibulectomy defects. Without reconstruction, almost all the functions are compromised. The speech, control of saliva, mastication and swallowing, then sensory and motor deficits. And overall, as I said before, it's difficult to replace the teeth because we won't be able to get sufficient space for teeth replacement. And see the pattern of mandibular movement in patients with unrestored mandibular discontinued defect. See, in normal cases, you can see the intercuspal position, the right lateral, left lateral, and the anterior. Whereas in a left mandibulectomy situation, see the entire jaw will be deviated towards the affected side. So the intercuspation and the deviation you can clearly see in this picture. So in such cases, see, correcting the deviation, that is very important. And the second aspect we have to consider is the frontal plane rotation. In the resected side, we can see the teeth are not in proper occlusion. That is another headache. So that also, if possible, can be corrected, or all these problems can be corrected with reconstruction only. See, for correcting the deviation, some physical training aids are there. I'll show you a few examples. One is the guiding flange with the upper buccal and a lower lingual flange. So slowly we have to guide the patient. But with this prosthesis, because you know the Adams class is extended in the middle. So if the deviation is severe, so that may affect the speech and also even the swallowing will be affected. But once the occlusion is stabilized, we can give this type of prosthesis. Then the other type is palatally based prostheses are there, either complete coverage of the palate or see only few teeth are there. The only thing is sufficient number of teeth should be present. Otherwise, we won't get any retention for the process. It may get dislodged. So that has to be trained properly. It may take several months, then only you will get a usable occlusion. So I'll show initially the patient's position. Then we have to guide slowly. Once the occlusion is stabilized, we can keep it like that. So I'll show for this patient, initially we have given a palatal ramp. The deviation was too severe. See, he's trying hard to get into proper occlusion. See, that is another important factor, patient's willingness and the muscle control also. Sometimes even if the patient's mindset is good, so they won't get the proper muscle control. Once they get the proper muscle control, they can slowly support the resected side and guide it towards the normal side. Again, 100% it's not perfect. Whereas with this, once the occlusion is reached, then it is stabilized with this guiding flange prosthesis. See, now he is doing very nicely. So in that occlusal position, see, after 2 months, we could achieve this position with the guiding flange prosthesis. So like that, we have to plan according to the deviation and according to each patient's requirements. And we have to motivate the patient and we have to train the patient. Even though it is a small appliance, that will be a great blessing for this patient. Patients like this. See, coming to reconstruction. See, here the reconstruction is not done, only a reconstruction plate is there. At least if we can keep this one, then the deviation can be corrected. But again, here we won't get the prosthetic space for teeth replacement, but at least the deviation can be corrected. And the functional movements also can be coordinated in a better way with this. It's a case of carcinoma of right lower alveolus. For this patient, segmental mandibulectomy, radical neck dissection, and reconstruction done with radial forearm. You know the thickness of the radial forearm. The patient had undergone radiation also. See, whichever flap we are using, the important aspect is the creation of the sulcus. If there is no sulcus, then it's very difficult to retain the denture. And another thing is we won't get adequate support of the denture. Other than that, the patient had undergone radiation, so the saliva will be very less. So in those cases, we have to plan accordingly that sulcus creation at the time of surgery itself. We have to convey surgeons, then only we will be able to replace the patient. See, for this patient also, we tried hard based on the neutral zone and we have given a cast partial denture process, but it was very difficult for the patient to because whenever the patient opens the mouth, it may lift because of the fibrosis, the scar, and even the sulcus is not there. It's almost touching the cheek region like that. So we have to plan all this prior. We have to interact with the surgeon and discuss all these aspects before. See, about the modalities of reconstruction of resected jaw. So in mandible, after reconstruction only, we can place the teeth in a better way. Say either vascularized or non-vascularized flaps can be used. It may include iliac crest like that. So the problem with the iliac crest is the resorption rate is more. And also the patient morbidity also, with the iliac crest bone. And fibula and scapula have the maximum success rate. But the problem with the scapula is, the position. Usually these surgeries are done simultaneously. So each time we have to turn the patient, the surgeon have to turn the patient. So out of all this, fibula is considered as the gold standard of the treatment. Just because it has adequate length, constant geometry, it is ideal for both lateral and symphyseal defect of mandibular body. It has double periosteal and medullary blood supply, allowing multiple osteotomy. Then it has adequate pedicle length that may reach up to the neck vessels. And donor side mobility also is comparatively very less. So the fibula is considered as the gold standard. So in this patient, coming to anterior defects, here the reconstruction was failed, referred from outside hospital. So usually in these cases, the tongue will be sutured to the labial side. Again, almost all the functions will be compromised in such cases. It's very difficult to restore the teeth, and for the patient's speech, everything, the function, the swallowing, everything will be affected in such situation. You heard about the typical anti-gum deformity, no? So almost the candidiasis is the class 5 situation. That's a class 6 is resected without reconstruction. So in class 6 situation, always it's better to change to a class 5 situation or a reconstruction based. Then only we can replace the teeth, not only teeth replacement, the patient's functional enhancement also we have to consider. So otherwise the typical this anti-gum deformity will be there. This reconstruction of the anterior defect I'll show you. This is the case of ameloblastoma of the mandible. See, with this method, the tongue is not mobilized by closure and the mandibular continuity also maintained. See, for this patient, we were getting almost crown height space was nearly 15 mm. Then we have given a hybrid denture for this patient, the jig trial and the final prosthesis. Hybrid denture, that's a metallic substructure with acrylic wrap around that is screwed in correct position. So reconstruction is the best option, especially for the anterior or posterior defect, mandibular defects. So we can give removable partial denture if sufficient number of teeth are remaining, or if the framework design is good, we can give the removable partial denture. But always we won't get the adequate stability, mainly because of the soft tissue thickness. See, usually in an anterior denture or an anterior teeth replacement, you can see the axis of rotation here. So if we, or the fulcrum line here. So if we can extended rest, if we can give an extended rest, we can move the fulcrum line from anterior towards the posterior direction so that the denture stability will be better. And we can additionally give some proximal plates, eye bar to enhance the retention of the denture. See, if the soft tissue bulk is less, we can give this type of removable prosthesis that will get the stability. We can enhance the stability with this additional extended rest, proximal plates and all. But usually in reconstructed jaws, the tissue bulk will be too much. So that decreases the denture stability. And even the crown height space, it may vary. That depends on the fibula height, the remaining teeth height. So the crown height space may vary. So that may lead to masticatory inefficiency and patient discomfort. All these causes an unsatisfactory aesthetics to the patient. So to overcome all these problems, implant assisted prosthesis, that is the best option. Implant stabilizes the prosthesis despite severely altered surface contour. So even if we can place 1 or 2 implants, so that enhances the retention and also better stability of the denture. So the lack of tongue control. So as I said before, the tongue glossectomy, if it is done, if we can place 1 or 2 implants, that definitely improves the retention of the prosthesis.
Excuse me, ma'am. We are running short of time.
Okay,
I request you to kindly complete it in 5-7 minutes, ma'am.
Okay, sure.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay. So the importance of treatment planning, I'll show with this case. This is a case of ameloblastoma. You can see this patient was referred almost 15 years back. I should say the treatment of this reconstructed case or the prosthesis for this reconstructed cases in all, it's like an evolution, or we have evolved out of experience, or with the material advancement, the milling technology. So all this helps to evolve load. Initially it was like this. We have given a hybrid denture for the patient, but see, after 2 months, this was broken. This is just because the crown height space was too much. See, the ideal positioning of the graph, the planning, either the digital planning or with the stereolithographic model, that part is very, very important. See, here we can see, even if you are not able to maintain a correct overjet and overbite, it should approximate with the upper teeth in the anterior and also in the posterior region. That helps to stabilize the occlusion. See, whereas if the control is not there, we can see the gap in between the posterior teeth. With this case, I'll show you the planning. See the resected side and the fibula. The normal side is flipped and the contralateral side, so that we'll get the normal contour and the prototype can be fabricated based on that. So you can see the external reconstruction plate and the prototype of the fibula also. The multiple osteotomies can be done based on the extension of the tumor. Then on table, the fibula also has to be, osteotomy of the fibula has to be done based on that prototype. This is the final. Even the implant placement also, depending on the crown height space, we can give either RP4, RP5 or FP3 prosthesis based on the crown height space. This is the final prosthesis. We have given an implant bar overdenture for this patient. Another important aspect is the soft tissue management. For this patient, initially we have given a hybrid denture, but see, after 1 year, due to the poor maintenance, the soft tissue proliferation around the implants. So these are the soft tissue related issues, the lack of normal vestibule. So the importance of vestibule creation, I told you, then the excessive soft tissue proliferation, peri-implantitis and all. So in such case, the important or the only solution is the split thickness skin grafting. The advantages, it has the best survival and it can heals rapidly. There are some drawbacks are there, least resemblance to the skin or poor sensation, but intraorally it's not at all a problem. So split thickness skin grafting, if we can do, see for this patient also, so we have given an overdenture just because the maintenance is poor, we have given an overdenture for this patient. I'll show you one ameloblastoma, the anterior resection case. The reconstruction done with vascularized skull. It's a Brown's class 4 lesion. So here it's extending, reaching up to the condyle. We could maintain the mandibular continuity after reconstruction based on the STL planning. Implants placed, the grafting. This is very important. Acrylic stent with glue liner. This has to be placed in position for almost 1 month till we get the tissue in proper intact position. See the healing. So here the crown height space was 15 mm and we have given a hybrid denture, the screw retain prosthesis for this patient. But some drawbacks of the hybrid denture is does not always compensate for the crown height space. That means if it is more than 20 or 25 mm, then it's better to give a RP4 or RP5 instead of going for an FP3 prosthesis. Then chance of screw loosening. I have shown you one picture, no, the screw fracture. So like that, it may happen. It's a case of unicystic ameloblastoma of right mandible, planning surgery. You can see the crown height space was almost more than 20 mm crown height space. So here we planned for an implant bar overdenture or an RP4 prosthesis. That means a prosthesis supported by implants. So the mandibular continuity we are able to achieve properly and we have given this type of prosthesis. So the prosthetic space based on the crown height space, we can plan which type of prosthesis has to be given. The advantages, compensate for the increased crown height space, eliminate the possibility of vertical cantilever. Otherwise, definitely the failure may occur due to the excessive vertical stress or the cantilever. Some failures may happen. So in the best advantage or the maximum survival rate is for the free fibular flaps and the scapula, almost 90 to 100%. But the problem with the scapula I have told you, and the advantage of the fibula also, the donor side morbidity, position wise, everything it's good for the fibula. Free fibula is considered as the best option. See the various reports are there. So in all these, the fibula is considered as the success rate is very high compared to any other flap. So I'll show you one failure case. In this patient, we have done the segmental mandibulectomy and reconstruction with a customized plate implant. See, after 2 months out of 4 implants, 1 implant came out and 2 implants was almost in a mobile. So only 1 implant placed in the native mandible integrated properly. The exact reason we don't know. It may be due to the decreased vascularity or the poor bone quality, but at the time of placement, the CBCT, it was completely okay. So then we have modified the prosthetic design because the patient wants some sort of teeth replacement. The conventional denture was not at all stable, even if 3 teeth are remaining, 3 or 4 teeth are remaining. So we have given a precision attachment. So with that one, we have given a cast partial denture with precision attachment. So what I want to tell is, even with a single implant, that improves the retention of the prosthesis. So and also reduces the cantilever. So that is definitely beneficial. This composite case, that's an osteosarcoma of the right mandible. This patient has undergone multiple surgery. The importance of the multidisciplinary approach, I'll show you with this case. See, in this, everything was compromised, the mouth opening. He's a surgical oncologist, this patient. So her main concern was the functional improvement. She was least bothered about the aesthetics, but she wants the proper mouth opening, at least swallow something in a proper way, chew something. So all the surgeries were planned based on the prosthetic rehabilitation. So the real prosthesis driven or the occlusion driven treatment planning was done for this case. See, we have to interact with the surgeon, the importance of multidisciplinary approach, I'll show you. So initially with the radial forearm, they have done the reconstruction, then augmented with the fibula. Then again, after that, the implant placement, again scar revision surgery, the fat grafting done. So finally, we have given the hybrid denture. So since we are running short of time, I'm not showing the entire steps. So even if the access holes are on the labial side based on the revision surgery and the position of the graft, see, we have closed that area with the composite, pink colored composite, and the patient was very happy because of the functional improvement. Now she can chew, swallow, smile, everything in a much, much better way. She's very happy with this processes. So from there, we have reached here with this processes. Okay, this is the importance of multidisciplinary. One last case, this is a recurrent squamous cell carcinoma of the mandible. So this patient again has undergone multiple surgery. Then after that, the revision surgery is not possible. But the main concern, the request was he wants to keep his tongue inside. So his only concern is that. So for this patient, what we have done is we have given a silicone prosthesis with an acrylic extension on the inner side. So that helps to rest that tongue. So it is attached with an elastic band, so the patient can open and close the mouth. The spoon is able to feed. Then see that silicone and acrylic has to be joined together with a primer. Then only we will get the adequate retention of the prosthesis. Again, small process, one lip prosthesis also. This also, sometimes it may be done along with the marginal mandibulectomy. For this patient also, drooling of the saliva was the main issue. Here also, we have given a silicone prosthesis that is attached with an acrylic. That is acrylic and the silicone is joined together and it is attached to the teeth with the clasp to the teeth. So this small prosthesis is a real blessing for the patient. So to conclude, multidisciplinary teamwork for functional and aesthetic enhancement, then the importance of that prosthetic driven or the occlusion driven treatment planning, then the design and type of processes should be biocompatible to the tissue and meet the biomechanical considerations. Then I told, then I told you in maxillectomy, even without reconstruction, we can keep an obturator if sufficient number of teeth are placed or if the implants can be placed. Whereas in mandibulectomy, it's very difficult if the prosthetic space is